So here we are at D&J River Farms in Flintville, Tennessee, where I've had the opportunity to work this summer. During this video, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the day-to-day operations that are completed around the farm, as well as give a tour of three main pieces of equipment that I have operated this summer, as well as some of the equipment that we'll use during harvest this fall. Strap in and enjoy the tour. So the first piece of equipment that I want to show y'all today is the spreader machine that earlier on in the spring or in the summer I was running. It's a Vector 390 made by RBR Enterprises. This machine was new to us this year, and I got the privilege of operating it and spreading fertilizer with it. The reason why I was the one that got lucky enough to do that was I previously held a job at a co-op that I worked for 3 years, and that was my main job, was to spread fertilizer those 3 years. But here's a little bit of a runaround. It is a multiplier bin to where we can spread 2 products at one time, variable rate, do whatever we need to do. That's something that we have incorporated into this program here, is a variable rate fertilizer plan. The way it works is the fertilizer comes out of either bin 1 or bin 2, comes down this back end here and falls on this pan, and then these spinner blades, which you can tell haven't been used in a while because of the rust, they will then sling it out. And it's my job to keep a consistent pattern and make sure that we get an even distribution of fertilizer across the entire crop. And I can do that with different adjustments, whether it be spinner speed. Back here on the fan frame, you can see there on the bottom how it's got different adjustments. There's a couple, some details that you can do to change how the spread pattern works. This year I was able to get around 85 to 90 foot out of this machine, and so you're able to cover a good bit of ground at a high rate, run about 15 miles an hour, and it allows us to track where we're going. We run a Viper system inside of it, and it talks to our main system, which is AccuField, to where we can keep record of what's been spread, how much the rates were, things like that. So it's a nice machine to have. It rides good, and it's been a real pleasure being able to operate this machine and grow a good crop, and to see the crop growing this year and how it has turned out. So here we are at the second piece of equipment that I want to talk to you about today, and this is our John Deere planter. It's a DB60, which means it's a 60 foot wide, and this planter gets you used to plant corn and soybeans, and we also convert it to plant cotton. The way this machine works is everything's driven electronically. You have a main harness hook up here, and then you have a computer board, then you have a motor that runs the unit and turns the unit, so that way everything can be shut off and turned on individually. The way this works is this here is your gauge wheels, and you adjust your depth on how deep you want to plant your seed. Then you have the row cleaners that clean all the trash and debris out the front, and then as it comes through all of that, you have this plastic piece here is a seed keaton, and that allows the seed to be pushed firmly to the bottom of the seed bed. We have our shark tooth closing wheels, which kind of pinches that ground and covers it, and then we have this rubber rolling wheel that will close that furrow up and kind of put a nice little cover to the ground. This unit is 24 rows wide, and it is amazing how much ground you can cover in a day's time. Those are your 2 tanks, both hold seed. And something that we've done here at D&J is we've put a globe on the planter, and that globe will talk to the tractor when it's hooked up, and the tractor GPS will adjust to make sure the planter is always center and always 60 foot from pass to pass, seeing that we use RTK here with John Deere guidance. So that's a little tour of the planter, and that way you can kind of see it and see how it works. So to go along with the planter, this here's one of the tractors we would use to pull the planter with. It's 8370R John Deere. They've got 370 horsepower, and I want to give you a little rundown the inside of it. We got 2 monitors here, and one's to run the auto steer, and the other one is to operate the planter. We can control everything from these two monitors inside the cab, and it allows us to access how the planter's doing, certain things like that. We do run RTK, and as I was saying about the planter, it does, the tractor will maneuver to adjust for the planter. That way it will always stay on course. Our third piece of equipment that I'm going to walk through, these be two pieces combined together, is the combine and the cotton picker. This here is one of the combines that we use to harvest wheat with this summer. We'll also use it to shell corn. It's a case combine, and the way it kind of works is the material, you put the head on and the material will run through the throat, and once it goes up through the throat, there's a big rotor in the center of it, and it will feed it out the back, go through the sieves, and out the back you'll get either the trash will go out the back, or you'll have the clean grain go up to the top of the elevator. It's a very neat piece of equipment the way it operates. The challenge to this is maintaining, always be aware of your surroundings, because you have the auger out the back that can hit things, as well as paying attention to any noises. There's a lot of moving parts to these combines, and paying attention and making sure you don't have no bearings, and making sure you don't have any fires, most importantly, because these things can catch on fire and you're not realizing it. The second piece of equipment here is a cotton picker. This fall we'll get into the cotton field and start picking cotton. This is a John Deere CP, or this is a 7760, one of the older versions. They're really neat machines where the heads here, which is also known as a cabinet, the cotton will go through these snouts, and then these teeth here, which you can't hardly see, open this door here, those teeth turn counterclockwise and they pull the cotton out of the bowl. Once the cotton's pulled out of the bowl, it'll go through the doffer, which is this piece here, which is spinning opposite of the way the spindles are spinning, and it uses air vacuum to push the cotton up this hole here, and it in turn goes up into the basket. The basket is then holding about a half a bale of cotton, and then it goes in that round module, and that round module is basically a big round baler, and that baler just runs only whenever it's feeding cotton from the accumulator to the bed. And then we'll use either the pink or yellow wrap, as you can see there, and it wraps it and the handler just drops it on the ground, and then we'll have a tractor come pick it up. But those are the two most main important pieces of equipment that we'll use this fall, and that allows us to really get harvest out more efficiently. It takes a good crew to keep all this stuff running, but something I've always enjoyed. So hope you enjoyed that tour of the combines and the cotton picker, and if you ever get a chance to ride on one, I would highly recommend it. Now we're going to take a ride over to one of the pivots that's across from the shop, so that way I can give you a better understanding of what we have to do on a daily basis or weekly basis, depending on the weather, when it comes to our irrigation pivots, and kind of give you a little run around on how they work. So here we are at one of our irrigation systems, and for time's sake I'm just going to walk around this one pivot and kind of give you a rundown of what pivot life is like. We run about 20 pivots here on this farm, and they all have things and maintenance issues that we have to do from time to time. One of the main things is opening and closing valves. We'll have several pivots that are run off a one well pump, and they just need to be, the valves need to be open and closed because we can't run all the pivots off of one valve. The way this works is you'll have this screen that we have inside this box here, and it just gives you all your data display. And the nice thing about these pivots is that a lot of this stuff is connected to our cell phones, to where we can turn on and turn off these pivots without even having to come to this center point. But a lot of times with these pivots, we can run programs to where we can only put out a certain amount of water in certain spots, stuff like that. We don't do it, but they even have it to where you can run variable rate irrigation. But this is a pivot, and the way it works is, like I said, once we open the valve, we turn the pump, and the command is sent to the box. Water comes on and goes out, and then each nozzle as you can see up there at the top, we'll put out a little water. And these pivots, every pivot that we operate here is known as a center point pivot, and they're all owned, or they're all manufactured by Valley. So that's a little tour of the pivot and what pivot life is like. Again, like I said, there's a lot of time can be spent, and here at the end of this video, I'm going to put in a short little time lapse of us pulling replacing a well pump in one of the wells that we have recently had go bad on us, and to show you what it's like to have to set a well by hand, because a lot of these we don't have the capability, we don't have a crane, so we can't pull them with a crane. So we'll after this be a little time lapse, and hope you enjoy. In this time lapse video, I want to talk about what is going on. This is something that doesn't happen often, but from time to time we have to fix the wells that supply water to the irrigation pivots. This well, and then in conjunction with another well on this farm, are pumping into a pond that we then use to pump to the pivot. At this point, the well pump and motor are already in the casing, and that stick of pipe that you're seeing in the air is 20 foot long, and it screws into the pipe that is attached to the well. If you look at in the bottom of the video, you can see a cable. We're using that cable that is attached to the well pump to lower it into the ground. We've attached the upper end of the cable to the winch on a side-by-side to help us have better control of how fast the pump is dropped into the ground. This well was roughly set at 74 feet, so once all the pipe was screwed together, we then started the process of wiring back everything up and to get the pump back online. And at the very end, I did not get a video, but this pump turned out great, and we were able to start pumping water back into our holding pond, so that way we could keep irrigating the cotton.